You know what's funny? A woman never truly realizes your value when you're chasing her. She only wakes up to it when you stop. When she feels that silence, when your energy pulls away, that's when the panic begins. Suddenly, the man she used to ignore, the one she dismissed as too available, becomes the one she can't stop thinking about. The man she once thought would always be there isn't, and that loss of control shakes her to the core. At first, she won't admit it. She'll test you a text out of nowhere, a story reaction, a random hey, how have you been? She's not doing that because she cares. She's doing it to check if she still has access to you. She wants to see if she can still pull you back with minimal effort. But when she realizes that her little tricks don't work anymore, when you don't respond with the same energy, that's when you'll see who she really is. Because a woman who genuinely values you will respect your distance, she'll understand that your withdrawal means something was wrong and she'll take accountability. But a toxic woman, she can't handle rejection, especially from a man she once controlled. So instead of reflecting, she reacts. She'll start rewriting history. Suddenly, you're the problem. You changed. You became distant. You weren't man enough to handle her. But what she'll never admit is how her own behavior killed your interest. She'll never mention the disrespect, the games, the emotional manipulation, or the way she made you feel small to keep herself feeling powerful. That's the part most men miss. You don't lose interest because you're bored. You lose interest because the peace you feel without her is worth more than the chaos she brings when she's around. There comes a point where the drama gets old, the arguments get repetitive, and the manipulation becomes predictable. You start seeing through it, and once a man sees the truth, he can't unsee it. You begin to realize that not every woman who says she wants love is capable of giving it. Some only want attention, control, and validation. And when that supply gets cut off, she spirals. She might try to make you jealous, suddenly posting cryptic quotes, fake happiness, pretending she's glowing without you. But those posts aren't confidence, they're panic disguised as pride. It's her way of trying to convince herself she didn't lose something valuable, because deep down she knows she did. The moment a man stops reacting, a toxic woman loses her power. Silence becomes your greatest weapon. When you no longer argue, no longer explain, no longer chase, you shift the dynamic completely. You take your energy back. That's something no toxic person can handle, because their control depends on your emotional response. The more calm you become, the more unbothered you appear, the more they unravel. And that's why walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. A man who's truly done is the hardest man to manipulate. Once your peace becomes a priority, no amount of guilt, tripping, fake tears, or sudden apologies can drag you back into that cycle. She might call you cold, but it's not coldness, it's clarity. You've learned the difference between attention and affection, between connection and control. So when she realizes you're no longer interested, don't explain your growth. Let your silence speak. It says everything. I've healed. I've seen your patterns. I've outgrown the game. And that, right there, is your victory. Because the real power isn't in making her regret losing you, it's in never needing her validation again. The moment you choose peace over drama, respect over chaos, and dignity over desperation, you've already won. At first, she'll test it. A message here, a random hey stranger there. It's not genuine concern or affection. It's strategy. She's not reaching out because she misses you as a person. She's doing it to test if she still has access to your emotions. She wants to see if she still has the power to pull your attention back with the smallest effort. That's how toxic validation works. It's never about love, it's about control. And if you respond, even politely, she'll take that as proof that she still owns space in your mind. That's all she needs to feed her ego. At this stage, she doesn't want you back for real. She just wants to know she could have you if she wanted to. That's the twisted part. The attention she used to take for granted suddenly becomes the very thing she craves. But once she realizes that her old tricks don't work anymore, that your tone is colder, your response is shorter, or maybe you don't reply at all, that's when the panic sets in. The control she once had over you starts slipping away, and toxic people cannot handle losing control. Then comes the emotional chaos. She'll begin to oscillate between being sweet and being spiteful. One day, she might send you a nostalgic message. Remember that night we stayed up talking till sunrise? And the next day, she'll post something online meant to trigger you. She'll suddenly act like she's moved on, flaunting a new relationship, or pretending she's happier than ever, but those are just performances for your attention. If she truly moved on, she wouldn't need to advertise it. Every show of confidence is just another attempt to make you react. What's even more dangerous is when she plays the victim. When her manipulation stops working, she'll flip the script. She'll claim you used her, that you changed, that you became emotionally unavailable. It's classic deflection. She projects her own behavior onto you, and if you try to defend yourself, she wins again because now you're back in her emotional arena. You've given her what she wants, your reaction. That's her oxygen. That's what keeps her power alive. But when you stay calm and detached, when you no longer explain or justify, she's forced to face something she's terrified of, herself. The silence she once used as a weapon now turns against her. She's left alone with her own thoughts, her own reflection, her own guilt, and instead of acknowledging her mistakes, she'll start reaching deeper into manipulation. Maybe she'll reach out pretending to just want closure. Maybe she'll use mutual friends to send messages through them. Maybe she'll try to trigger your empathy by claiming she's struggling, but every move she makes is still about control. It's still about testing if she can pull you back in. This is where most men fall back into the trap. They see her sudden interest as change, as growth, as love resurfacing. But it's not change, it's fear. It's the fear of losing the person who used to make her feel powerful. Once she realizes you're emotionally unavailable, truly detached, she starts seeing you differently. You become the challenge again, and toxic people are addicted to challenges. That's why the moment you start showing disinterest, her mind goes into survival mode. She'll say whatever she needs to say to get your attention. She'll promise she's different. She'll play the I miss you card, or she'll try to make you jealous. But you have to remember it's not about love. It's about power. Love doesn't panic when you walk away. Love reflects, grows, and respects your boundaries. Manipulation, on the other hand, panics when it loses control. So when she tests you, stay grounded. Don't fall for the nostalgia, the guilt, or the games. You're not dealing with someone who wants to heal. You're dealing with someone who wants to keep you emotionally hooked. Your disinterest threatens her illusion of control, and that's why she reacts. But once you realize that you're not losing anything by staying silent, the game ends. The moment you stop playing, she loses all her power, and that right there is the moment you truly win. And when she realizes it doesn't work anymore, that's when you see the real side of her. That's when the mask slips. The sweet, charming version of her, the one who used to laugh at your jokes, who acted like she cared, suddenly disappears. Now you're dealing with the version she tried to hide, the defensive, manipulative, ego-driven one. Because when control is lost, true character is revealed, and in that moment, everything she pretended to be collapses. At first, she'll act confused. She'll say things like, "Why are you being distant?" Or "What did I do wrong?" Not because she genuinely wants to fix anything, but because she wants to understand what caused her control over you to fade. She wants to identify the weakness in her strategy, not in herself. You'll notice the tone shift. There's no real vulnerability, just curiosity mixed with frustration. She can't stand that the man she once controlled emotionally no longer dances to her rhythm. Then, when she realizes she can't pull you back with soft words or guilt, she'll flip the switch completely. Anger replaces sweetness. Now she's mocking you, calling you cold, heartless, or accusing you of never caring. She starts rewriting the story, casting herself as the victim and you as the villain. Why? Because toxic women cannot accept accountability. Their ego won't allow them to admit they pushed someone away through their own actions. So instead, they attack, they project their guilt onto you to protect their self image. It's not about the loss of love, it's about the loss of power. A toxic woman doesn't mourn the relationship, she mourns the fact that she can no longer manipulate your emotions. The attention she once took for granted is gone, and that absence feels like punishment to her. She'll try to fill the void by pretending she's fine or that she's moved on. You'll see the sudden social media glow up, the cryptic quotes about knowing your worth. The new guy she flaunts like a trophy, but deep down, that's all performance. Every post, every I'm happier now statement. It's not about happiness. It's about trying to get your attention, to make you wonder, to trigger you. And the irony is, the more she tries to prove she doesn't care, the more obvious it becomes that she does. Because people who have truly moved on don't need an audience. They don't need validation from strangers to prove they're happy. Only someone still emotionally entangled seeks attention from the man she claims to be over. When you've really detached, you'll start seeing the manipulation for what it is: desperation disguised as confidence. You'll notice how every action she takes is rooted in insecurity, not empowerment. But don't let her chaos pull you back in. The moment you respond, even just to clear things up, she wins, because to her, your attention, good or bad, is still attention. And toxic people don't care whether it's love or hate, as long as they have your energy. So, what do you do when the real side of her shows up? Nothing. You don't fight it, you don't justify yourself, and you don't stoop to her level. You let her unravel on her own, because when a man stays calm in the face of manipulation, that calmness becomes power, it unsettles her. She expects you to argue, to chase, to defend yourself. When you don't, it forces her to face the truth she's been avoiding, that she no longer has control over you. And that's the most painful thing for a toxic woman to experience. Losing you isn't just losing a person. It's losing her emotional puppet. It's losing the ability to control how you feel, how you think, how you react. And once that power is gone, she's left with nothing but the reflection of her own emptiness. That's when the insults come, the rumors, the guilt trips. She'll do anything to make you react again, because any reaction means she still has a piece of you. But if you stay centered, if you refuse to feed that chaos, her power fades completely. Over time, the same woman who once thought she had you wrapped around her finger will be haunted by the silence she created. And that's why it's so important to stand your ground, because when you stop reacting, you stop participating in the toxicity. You rise above it. You stop being her emotional supply and start being your own source of peace. That's when the real side of her has no power left. You've seen the truth, and once you've seen it, you can never unsee it. Because a mature, feminine woman will respect your distance. She'll understand that your silence isn't a game, it's communication. She'll take that space to reflect, to question where things went wrong, and to take accountability for her part. A real woman doesn't chase validation, she seeks understanding. She values peace over power. She knows that love can't survive without respect. So when a man pulls away, she doesn't panic, she listens. She gives him room, she allows healing. She responds with emotional intelligence, not manipulation. That's what separates maturity from toxicity. But a toxic woman, she reacts completely differently. She doesn't see your silence as a boundary, she sees it as a challenge. Her ego can't handle rejection. especially from someone she once had under her control. Instead of asking, "What did I do wrong?" she asks, "How dare he ignore me?" And that's where the emotional games begin. She'll go from playing the victim to playing the hero, from sweet to spiteful, all within the same day. It's chaos disguised as care. You'll notice how she suddenly becomes the perfect woman again. She starts doing all the things she refused to do before, sending kind messages, showing empathy, pretending to care about your feelings. But it's not real change, it's emotional camouflage. She's not trying to rebuild the relationship, she's trying to rebuild control. She'll say just enough to make you doubt your decision, to make you question your peace, to pull you back into her emotional orbit. And if that doesn't work, she'll flip the script completely. Suddenly, she's the one who was done with you. She'll act like she's been over it for a long time. She'll tell people you were toxic, that you couldn't handle her energy. Every lie she tells is a defense mechanism to protect her ego, because admitting the truth, that you lost interest because of her behavior, would mean accepting accountability, and accountability is something a toxic person will always run from. This is where most men get trapped. They start second, guessing themselves. They think maybe I was too cold, or maybe she really changed. But remember this, true change doesn't come from panic, it comes from awareness. A woman who suddenly shifts the moment she loses control isn't changing. She's performing. She's trying to adapt just long enough to get you back. And once you're emotionally reattached, the mask slips again. The cycle repeats. A mature woman values your growth, a toxic one fears it, because when you grow, you stop being easy to manipulate. When you heal, you stop needing validation, and that terrifies someone who thrives on emotional chaos. Your peace becomes her enemy because it means she can no longer trigger you. That's why toxic people always accuse you of being distant or cold. They mistake your calm for indifference. But in truth, it's not that you don't care, it's that you finally care about yourself more than the drama. And that's what real detachment looks like. It's not about revenge or arrogance. It's about reclaiming your energy. It's about choosing to respond with silence instead of anger, with clarity instead of confusion. When you no longer react, she's forced to face herself. She can't manipulate silence. She can't twist your peace into an argument. She can't guilt you into staying. So let her say what she wants. Let her play whatever role she needs to play to feel powerful again. None of it matters. Because the truth is, you've already won the moment you decided to walk away without bitterness. When you stopped explaining yourself, when you stopped arguing, when you stopped giving her the reaction she craved, that's when you took your power back. A mature woman respects that decision, a toxic woman resents it. But either way, your peace is yours again. You've drawn the line between what's healthy and what's harmful. You've chosen growth over guilt. And that's something no manipulative person can ever handle, because peace exposes chaos, and when peace walks in, toxicity has no place left to hide. No, she'll blame you, play the victim, twist the story, because accountability is something a toxic woman will always run from. The moment she realizes that her control is slipping, she can't accept that her own behavior pushed you away. Instead, she rewrites the narrative to protect her ego. In her version of the story, you're the one who changed. You're the one who gave up. You're the one who couldn't handle her personality. It's never about her actions, it's about maintaining the illusion that she was right and you were wrong. This is a pattern deeply rooted in insecurity. A toxic woman cannot bear to see herself as the cause of emotional loss. Her pride won't allow it. So, rather than looking inward, she projects everything outward. She starts convincing herself and everyone around her that you were the problem. She'll say things like, "He just wasn't mature enough," or "He couldn't handle a strong woman," trying to disguise manipulation as confidence. It's not strength, it's defense. She uses blame as a shield because the truth that she sabotaged something real is too heavy for her to face. At this point, you'll notice how quickly she switches roles. One day she's the victim, the next she's the villain, and by the weekend she's the healed woman, posting quotes about self, love, its emotional shape, shifting a desperate attempt to avoid sitting with the discomfort of self-awareness. Because self-awareness requires humility, and humility requires truth. A toxic person's ego cannot survive in the presence of truth. That's why she needs to twist the story. She'll start telling people that you were emotionally unavailable, that you were distant, or that you made her feel unappreciated. It's all part of her narrative control. She knows that whoever controls the story controls the perception. And toxic people are addicted to perception. They care more about how things look than how things truly are. But here's where the beauty lies for you when she's out there trying to justify, explain, or play the victim. She's actually proving your decision right. The more she talks, the more she exposes herself, because people who are truly at peace don't need to defend their image. Silence is what confident people use, noise is what guilty people create. So, when you see her twisting facts, let her. You don't need to explain your side of the story to anyone. Time has a way of revealing truth without your effort. Meanwhile, as she plays the victim, her internal world is crumbling. She'll act strong, but inside, she's anxious, restless, and confused. The loss of control eats at her. The attention that once fed her ego is gone, and now she has to face her reflection without the validation she depended on. That's why she scrambles for sympathy, because pity feels safer than accountability. It allows her to maintain her image as the one who got hurt, rather than the one who caused the pain. And yet, no matter how loud her narrative becomes, something inside her knows the truth. She knows she crossed lines. She knows she tested your patience, disrespected your peace, and drained your energy. Deep down, she knows that your detachment didn't come from indifference, but from exhaustion. You simply got tired of the emotional games. And that truth that you left not because you stopped caring, but because you started protecting yourself, is what she can't handle. That's why she'll do everything in her power to distract herself from that reality. She might jump into another relationship, not out of love, but out of fear. She needs a new emotional supply, someone else to feed her ego, someone else to validate her worth. But it never lasts because you can't replace what you disrespected. You can't rebuild what you destroyed with manipulation, and eventually, when the noise settles, she'll remember the peace she once had with you, the stability, the effort, the genuine care, all the things she mistook for weakness. But by then, it'll be too late, because once a man finds peace after pain, he never goes back to the source of it. So when she blames you, let her. When she plays the victim, stay silent. When she twists the story, don't correct it. You don't owe anyone explanations for choosing peace. You owe yourself peace after surviving chaos. Her need to shift blame is proof that you made the right decision, because real love doesn't need lies, and real women don't need to rewrite the story they face it. A toxic woman can only avoid accountability for so long before the truth catches up, and when it does, your silence will be the loudest reminder of what she lost: a man who once cared, but finally cared for himself more. Suddenly, asterisk, you're the bad guy. Asterisk, that's how it always plays out. The moment you stop feeding her ego, you become the villain in her story. She'll twist every memory, every conversation, every argument, until you look like the one who ruined everything. She'll forget the times she disrespected you, the games she played, the words she said that cut deep. None of that exists anymore. In her mind, the story has a new headline: asterisk. He's the one who changed, asterisk. At first, you might be shocked. You'll wonder how someone who once claimed to love you can turn so quickly. You'll question yourself. Asterisk, did I do something wrong? Was I too cold, too distant? Asterisk, but that's exactly what she wants. She thrives when you doubt yourself, because self doubt is where her control used to live. The more you question your choices, the easier it is for her to manipulate your emotions again. That's why she paints herself as the innocent one. If she's the victim, you'll feel guilt. And if you feel guilt, you'll go back even if part of you knows you shouldn't. You see, in toxic dynamics, the truth never matters more than the perception of truth, and toxic people are masters of perception. She'll tell her friends that you changed after she gave you everything. She'll post quotes about betrayal and heartbreak, carefully crafted to look like she's healing while actually sending you a message. Her goal isn't closure, it's control. She wants to live rent free in your head. She wants you to see her pain and second, guess your decision to walk away. But what you must remember is this: villains only exist in stories told by people who can't accept their own faults. She's not angry because you wronged her, she's angry because you no longer play your role in her drama. You stopped reacting. You stopped feeding the emotional chaos she needed to feel powerful. Your silence made her powerless, and instead of taking accountability, she rebrands that powerlessness as your cruelty. She'll say things like, "You're not the man I fell in love with." And she's right, because the man she fell in love with was under her control. He was the version of you that tolerated disrespect, that over-explained himself, that put her emotions above his own peace. But you outgrew that version, you became stronger, you stopped letting guilt dictate your boundaries. That's not a weakness, that's evolution. Now she's stuck with a reality she can't stand, one where you're no longer orbiting her. So she'll do everything in her power to pull you back. If she can't make you love her again, she'll try to make you hate her. If she can't get your affection, she'll settle for your anger, because either way, you're still giving her energy. That's the trap. She doesn't need your love to feel powerful. She just needs your attention. So, when she paints you as the villain, understand what's really happening. You're witnessing emotional projection in its purest form. Everything she accuses you of doing, she's done herself. Everything she says you've become is a reflection of what she can't admit about herself. That's why you never argue with a toxic person. They don't want truth, they want reaction. They don't want clarity, they want chaos. The best thing you can do is let her version of the story exist. Let her talk, let her tell the world her lies, because while she's out there trying to destroy your image, you're building your peace. And in time, her narrative will fall apart on its own. People eventually see patterns. They notice who's always the victim and who keeps walking away quietly. And when that realization hits, the truth will speak louder than any rumor ever could. You don't need to clear your name. You don't need to prove your worth. The moment you walked away, you already did. Toxic people destroy their own credibility over time because lies can only hold up for so long before reality catches up. And when it does, she'll have no one left to blame but herself. So let her call you the bad guy, let her twist the story, let her pretend you're the cold one, because you know the truth. You didn't walk away to hurt her, you walked away to protect yourself. And that's not cruelty, that's self-respect, that's healing. And that's something no toxic person will ever understand, that a man choosing peace will always look like the villain to someone who thrives on chaos. But what she'll never say is that she destroyed your interest piece by piece with manipulation, disrespect, and emotional games. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow erosion. At first, you don't even notice it. You excuse the small things, the sarcasm, the little jabs, the backhanded compliments. You convince yourself that maybe she's just having a bad day, that maybe you're overreacting. Because as men, we're taught to be patient, to be understanding, to not take things so personally. But over time, the pattern becomes undeniable. You start realizing it's not just a bad mood, it's who she really is. You begin to notice how every argument turns into an attack on your character. You try to communicate calmly, but somehow it always flips back on you. You express a concern, and suddenly you're too sensitive. You try to set a boundary, and now you're controlling. Every time you try to fix something, she finds a way to make you feel like the problem. That's how manipulation works. It's not loud, it's quiet, it's consistent. It's psychological warfare disguised as emotional connection. At first, you'll try harder. You'll think that maybe if you explain yourself better, she'll finally understand. Maybe if you give her more love, she'll soften. But the truth is, the more you give, the less she respects it. Because in her mind, your tolerance equals weakness. The more you chase her approval, the more she tests your limits. She starts seeing how far she can push before you finally break. And when you don't break, when you keep forgiving, she starts to believe she can do anything and you'll still stay. That's when the disrespect becomes blatant. She begins to compare you to other men subtly at first, then openly. She says things like, "Other guys would do this for me," or "You used to be more romantic." Those comments aren't about improvement, they are about control. They're designed to make you feel inadequate so she can reassert her dominance in the relationship. Every time she makes you question your worth, she gains more power. That's how toxic women feed themselves, not through love, but through control of your emotions. You start losing yourself without even realizing it. You stop speaking up to avoid conflict. You downplay your needs because you've been conditioned to believe they don't matter, and slowly, the spark that made you passionate and confident begins to dim. That's how she kills your interest, not in one explosion, but through 1,000 tiny cuts. The man who once showed up with energy and excitement now moves with hesitation, constantly second, guessing himself. You stop being your authentic self because you've been trained to believe your authenticity is the problem. And by the time you finally withdraw, by the time your interest fades completely, she'll act confused. She'll look at you like you're the one who changed. She'll say things like, "You're not the same person I fell in love with." But what she'll never admit is that she's the reason you had to change. You didn't stop caring. You stopped trying to survive in a place that kept wounding you. You didn't lose love. You lost patience. You didn't become distant. You became drained. That's the cruelest irony. She'll accuse you of being cold without realizing she's the one who froze you out. She'll say you stopped making an effort, but she'll forget the years you spent giving without receiving. And when you finally decide that your peace matters more than the relationship, she'll call you selfish. But self preservation isn't selfishness, it's survival. That's why when she tells people you lost interest, you don't need to defend yourself, because anyone who's been through this knows men don't just lose interest for no reason. They lose it when love becomes labor, when affection turns into obligation, when peace turns into pain. And deep down, she knows this too. But admitting it would mean facing the truth she's been running from, that she broke something that will never be repaired. That she took a man who would have given her everything and taught him not to care. And that's the one thing she'll never say out loud, because it's easier to paint you as the villain than to face the mirror that shows her what she did. So don't carry guilt for losing interest in chaos. Don't feel bad for choosing peace over pain. She didn't lose you because you stopped loving her. She lost you because she made love feel like a burden. And when a man's heart turns quiet, when he finally stops trying, that's not weakness. That's the sound of a soul that's done being mistreated, and nothing she says can change that.